Hello and good evening, and welcome to another night of Shadow Whispers in the Night. We have myself, and we have Gillian from Spook Troop Tours, and she's a lampologist. You can ask her questions throughout the show, what it means to be a lampologist. How are you doing tonight, Gillian?
Grand, not a bother. I'm looking forward to chatting with Steve.
Definitely. Thanks for coming on tonight. Thanks for jumping in. It's your first time here with us.
Well, kind of second, but in a different way.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Actually, you're on about a little over a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So tonight we have on with us, we have Steve Parsons. He's an author. He is the UK's leading ghost hunters. We're going to bring him in now with us. Oh, no, we have Richard Felix. Oh, sorry, we don't have Steve Parsons. We have Richard Felix in with us tonight.
A man of many faces.
I know. What's the story?
None of them mine.
Huh?
Man of many faces, none of them mine.
Oh, wow. Thanks for joining us tonight, Steve. Thank you for joining in with us tonight. Looking forward to it.
Derby Jail.
Looking forward to it. We have, what did you say?
Have you ever investigated Derby Jail?
I have. I've had that privilege.
Oh.
What's it like?
In what regard? I mean, it's a nice place to visit.
Aye.
I don't know whether it's haunted. Richard tells me it is. I tell myself it is. I mean, I've never actually investigated it, in a proper sense. I've visited, I've talked to Richard, been shown round, spent time there, even partied there. But we actually have a plan later in the year for charity because he came on to Ghost Chronicles Radio, and we kind of set a challenge for whether we actually managed to pull it off, of me spending, you ready for this, 3 days and 2 nights locked alone in Derby Jail.
Oh my God.
How did that go?
It hasn't happened yet. We're still sort of working on
they're
it.
planning it.
Oh, cool.
Working on the plans for it. So that could be, that'd be interesting. Actually
that'd be really good, yeah.
On my own. So obviously, I mean,
your own personal lockdown.
Yeah, my own personal. I mean, there are cameras inside the jail, so we can and we'll be doing sort of various streamy stuff from there. But there will only be me in the jail for the full period. Nobody will be allowed in, except perhaps Deliveroo. Well, they'll have to post it. They'll have to post it through the letterbox.
The local chipper, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, whether it happens or not, it's a plan for charity for later in the year.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It really is. I mean, especially for such a well-known site.
Yeah.
And then as well, being particularly for charity as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'll be doing some form of investigating while I'm there, but I advocate the best form of investigating is simply to be somewhere and experience it. And if people say stuff happens, and if I'm there and stuff happens, then at least I'll have some, ability to be able to see, experience it for myself, maybe understand it, see what happens. Yeah. And of course, then raise money for charity. So.
Absolutely.
Well, that's one of the things I was going to ask you, Jenny, if you don't mind.
You're here to host.
You have said previously that your parents have come out with stories about when you were a child.
Yeah.
That you have no recollection of any paranormal experiences as a child, but they have stories of you when you're going on holidays, wanting to go to castles to search for ghosts.
It's worse than that. Much worse than that.
Or sitting in your bedroom talking to someone. So now as an adult that you know that, would that encourage you to go into places with a little bit more awareness of the spiritual side of things?
I think I'm always aware of the potential for the spirit side of things.
Or to practice it. More.
I don't practice it. But interestingly, my grandparents and their family, so that generation, aunts, great aunts and great uncles were all members of the Spiritualist Church, and were sort of platform readers in the Spiritualist Church. This is something I found out many years afterwards, but. Yeah, I've said it before, when your parents reach that age where they start telling embarrassing stories about you as a small child to anybody that will listen, complete strangers in the street, my mum would just stop them. It transpired that as a very small boy, I had an imaginary friend, which I've got no recollection of. And then she said, you used to make Ouija boards and hold seances in the garage. Go figure.
Really?
As you do.
Apparently I did. Now, I do remember always asking on holidays as a sort of 5, 6, 7-year-old to go and look for the ghost because I wanted to see the ghost. There was a hotel nearby where we were staying, and we went to the same general place every year. Obviously we went to other places as well, but I always went, looking for ghosts. So there was a cemetery that had that was between where we were staying and this hotel, and you used to have to walk past it. And I would deliberately, sort of go and sit in the cemetery in the afternoon, as the sun went down to see if. I remember one time. I remember reading. Something about the folklore and mythology of Wales. I'm reading, I think it might have been Peter Underwood, and he said there was a story from Scotland called Widdershins Round the Kirk, where apparently if you walk 3 times around the kirk, anti-clockwise, so Widdershins, a spirit would appear.
Oh,
needless to say, I used to go to this church in. Round and round and round anti-clockwise. I lost count how many times. I certainly went round more than 3. I was desperate to see a ghost, and then as I got older, I used to frequent. There was an old windmill, an old derelict farm, because Britain was being developed in the 60s following the war, and there was a big expansion in housing. So there was a lot of properties that were being, they were abandoned, waiting to be demolished, waiting for the site to be redeveloped. And some of them gained a reputation amongst the children as being spooky, haunted, scary, and the kids would dare one another to go inside them because the evil, whatever it was, would appear, the bogeyman would appear. And I found that, I thought, I'm going to get to see a ghost. And eventually you realize that ain't going to happen that way.
No.
So then you grow up a little bit. Your childhood illusions are soon shattered.
Yeah. Did you ever see anything?
Do you know, honestly, as I said before, I remember asking to see the ghost. I remember going into the hotel and the windmill and the churchyard. What I don't remember is any of the stuff that, the stories that my mum says about sort of crude Ouija board and lighting candles and sitting around a table with my mates in the garage. I don't remember any of that. Yeah. Did I see a ghost? Not that I can recall. Not until very much later on did I have an experience that maybe, I can't explain.
Oh, really?
So if it's the closest, if you see, because we don't really know what a ghost is, it's really hard to say I've seen a ghost. But I've seen something that I can't rationally explain, despite the fact I know that I have rationally looked for every possibility I can think of. But that didn't happen then.
Okay, yeah. I know I remember seeing something myself up in the north of Ireland in a place called Shane's Castle. And I was sitting in the car with a friend of mine. We were late to location. And I had looked at, we were sitting in the car. There was a few cars parked in front of us. And I had seen...
What, were you jogging?
Was I dogging? Did you say was I dogging?
Well, it sounds like you were dogging then.
We were late to location. We weren't dogging. Not that time, no. But we've seen this
dogologist.
What? What is a dogologist? Oh, good Jesus Lord! I seen this solid black figure of I don't know what it was, but it was the shape of, you could see the head, the nose, the chin, the neck, the shoulders, right down to the waist, walking right by. And I said nothing to a friend of mine. I said nothing. And she said to me about say 20 seconds later, oh my God, did you see that? And I said, what did you see? And she said, I saw a waist and legs walking by.
Right, so she saw the bottom half.
Yes, and I saw the
You
top
saw
half.
Top half.
Yeah, but I didn't say anything to her. I was trying to kind of make sense of it in my head. Never seen it again, but it was definitely there. Look at Greg saying, you were dogging. Look what you started. You were dogging. Mary, childhood illusions maybe, but a sparked your interest, not too dissimilar to myself. I don't know who this is. Do ghosts wear sheer clothing? Heard of the hauntings of summer. First name Anne. I don't know. Do you know who that is?
The ghost of Anne Summers is well known.
Oh
yeah.
Christ. I'm slow tonight. And no, I wasn't.
I think that was known as an elastic ghost because it kept sort of as we say over here in Britain, she was up and down like a bride's nightie.
Oh Jesus, really?
I've heard it being said as bride knickers, but however.
Did you? Bride's knickers?
Yeah.
That's
lovely. Up and down at bride's knickers. So with so kind of few experiences that you wouldn't be able to explain rationally, Steve, why do you continue to investigate a field that is quite possible you will never find anything to kind of back up, or enough evidence to back up the spirit?
Why have I been doing this for over 50 years? Well, the simple answer is because we've got a history of ghost experiences going back 2,000-3,000 BC. You know, the ancient Sumerians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians all report, and they are remarkably similar, whether you look at Chinese ghost stories or Japanese ghost stories or Native American ghost stories. So there is something that people are experiencing that we give it the label of a ghost. But there is, I mean, I know the skeptics say there's no such thing as ghosts, but there is absolutely definitely such a thing as a human experience called ghosts. It fascinates me. You know, I want to know what it's gone from. I want to see a ghost to I want to try and figure out what this experience is, because it is universal, regardless of culture, regardless of time period, regardless of, you know, upbringing, ethnicity, the fashionable one of gender. You know, it's something that is either inside of us, inside of our brains, something in the wiring of our brains, maybe, or is it something that is out there, something external, something that, you know, people say we leave our body, you know, they talk about the soul and such like. So is it some part of us that survives death, or that refuses to go somewhere else after the physical body dies? We don't know. We don't know whether it's, or what I do know is that at one end of the spectrum, it's complete, you know, it's fantasy, make believe, it's the brain playing tricks on the body. At the opposite end of the scale, the soul, dead people coming back or not going on and whatever, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. but I don't know where. Nobody knows where. If anybody tells you they know what a ghost is, if anybody tells you for certain we survive death, they're lying, because we just don't. Not in the sense of you can have an absolute unshakable belief in something. We believe in God. People who are religious, deeply religious, believe in God. You can have that level of belief, but belief doesn't create a fact. You can believe with all of your passion that the world is flat, but it ain't going to make the world flat.
Aye.
So,
although in fairness, with all the experiences I've had over the years, and the way I was brought up and that type of thing, I do have to say I've never had God turn up and move a glass around a table or play with dowsing rods.
And those are the reasons why I would never knock anybody who tells me, that they believe that, or they have had experiences that convince them that the dead, we survive death in some way. All hail Zach. Yeah.
That's Anthony.
That's Anthony, yeah. But I can't remember where it was, because it was a good while ago now. There is a scientific team somewhere that they actually filmed a soul leaving the body. They now admit that there is some energy there that leaves the body that they're referring to as soul.
Yeah.
There have been claims that there was a doctor in America in the 20th century who used to weigh people before and after they died to see if they could weigh the soul.
Okay.
I mean, it was done with consent. He was a proper doctor, and he would, and I think he worked out that the soul weighs about 8 grams. So
I read about that. I did read about
an American doctor in Boston.
Yeah.
I can't remember the details off the top of my head. It was Guy Fawkes on the top of me. That was his name. But we speculate. I was asked the other day to test an AI, one of these new clever AI chat systems, and the researcher said, "Well, just ask it anything you want. Any sort of think about quantum physics or life, the universe, and everything." So I asked the system, "What is a ghost?" And we back and forth for 2 or 3 minutes, and it broke. It broke the AI bot.
Did
it? There isn't an answer. We don't know.
Isn't it crazy? Yes. Isn't it
well,
crazy?
I'm sure was it the Tennessee Wraith Chasers famously said, "Oh, we're going to develop ghost traps, and we trap a ghost in a box, and then we well,
didn't they create a film out of it? Ghostbusters."
The startling thing about that is, if you wanted to create a mouse trap, first of all, you've got to know what a mouse is. So by saying we've got a ghost trap, they are effectively saying we know what a ghost is. But we don't.
But see, to me as well, that's the kind of Hollywood oversaturated style of things as well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for starters, I'd never refer to them as ghosts. That's a glamorized title as far as I'm concerned. I mean, to be their spirit. And as I said, because of the way I was brought up and the experience that I've had and that kind of thing, to me, they are people that have passed on information being able to be got that couldn't be in my, would have no reason to be in my memories, and then like that, when we bring people into the castles for events, what we do is we show them a demonstration on how to do something, like say the dowsing rods, for instance, and then we stand back. We don't try and convert somebody to say, "Oh, this is what is happening." We hand it over to them and they make up their own mind after that. But like that, it is done in a very respectful way, in that we're not going ghost hunting as such. I think the respect of it is very important.
I think, respect is part of respect is taking the thing seriously. And I think, as a serious researcher, then by default, I'm respectful because I'm taking it seriously. I'm not there like some people ghost baiting, shouting and hollering at,
throw something.
Yeah, the best. Actually, one of my favourites is apart from the opening one. Is there anybody there? We mean you no harm. I'm fucking dead. Like what are you going to do to the ghost? Like, we mean you no harm.
Mary Nolan would back me up on this one. Come forward. Come forward.
I remember many years ago, there was a group, and they weren't a group I was taking very seriously. They'd lost any credibility, and they were led by someone who said that they were a psychic from the most haunted school of psychic training, and go to the light, go to the light. And they were doing it endlessly. Go to the light, go to the light. And eventually, after about five or 10 minutes of this, go to the light, go to the light, somebody noticed that out at the corner, I taped a powerful light on top of the camcorder. I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, which light are you going to go to?" So I'm guessing if I put the brightest light in the room on, the ghost will go to the light. I get a picture of it.
Oh, yeah. Did you get a picture?
No. No.
Exactly.
There was another occasion where they said that you know how you have to do this like spiritual protection. You got to protect yourself.
Yes, grounding. Yeah.
Otherwise,
grounding is different to protection.
Yeah, well, otherwise they sit on the back seat of your car, don't they, on the way home, and you can see them in the rearview mirror. So she was saying, "Wait, all join hands, close your eyes, and I want you to visualize yourselves bathed in this blue light, bathed in blue light." And then she looked across at me because I was glowing bright blue from top to bottom because I switched the blue filter setting onto the torch. What are you doing? No imagination. Would real blue light work? Ouch.
There's the thing, actually. I mean, back in the early 1800s,
that makes me sound very disrespectful.
No, but it's kind of,
I mean, sometimes, given that
I was just having a bit of a laugh.
Well, sometimes I've been out with hundreds of groups, and some groups, you work closely with, and you can see that they are working towards trying to find answers, and you can see others that have just taken the money, and they're just, thank you very much for the money, and we'll all just put on a performance now, and you've just lost, they've got no, and you're there to help ticket sales, really. I thought, I've had enough. I remember one group.
Okay, so what about teams then that say, I mean, obviously it's down to expense of hiring the sites as well, which has gotten very expensive. But then again, the maintenance and that of the buildings have also, become expensive.
Yeah.
How would you feel then, or what would you suggest to teams that would go to a place like, say, once or twice a year, or even just once a year? And it's really to put videos up on Facebook and say, look where we are, and that kind of thing. Surely they can't back up anything that they get, really. If they hear something, how do they know that's not a repetitive sound that will go at the same time, same place the next night?
The majority of them, there is a clear difference between taking a group of people to, and I've done it for charity, you take a group of nurses, nuns, well, not often nuns, but you never know. People who want to raise money for charity by going to a haunted house, because haunted houses are popular. And they're raising money for a good cause. They're there to enjoy themselves. They want to have the bejesus scared out of each other. Now, that's a very different thing than telling people we are doing a real investigation. Look, we've got cat toys and we've got these radios that talk to the dead, and we've got, we're going to do real experiments, because they're not. They're just taking money and performing. And there is, you know, if anything happened, they're not equipped to deal with it. You know, if and they don't anyway, because every noise, I've seen it so many times. You know, is there anybody there? Can you make a noise? And somebody's chair will creak. Thank you, spirit. Can you do it again? You know, if you want us to leave, make a noise. Do you really want us to leave? If you do, make a noise. Well, just to clarify, is that you want us to leave, make a noise, or is that
Are you sure now? Are you sure you want us to go?
Yeah. I mean, how many times have you heard that?
And then 2 hours later, they're still on camera going, would you like us to leave?
I know.
Are you absolutely sure that you really,
Sorry, have
really...
to let the pup out. I'll be back to you in a second.
Okay. So what happens if they did hear the sound by saying, okay, make a sound if you want us to leave, and they hear a sound, but they still stay? Don't get it. I don't get it.
And then, of course, if I was a ghost and they were doing that, I'd
be probably leaving a voicemail. Would you just F off? Like, would you just go? It's annoying.
The other thing is, I mean, there doesn't seem to be any consideration of even basic, you know, logical issues, because they'll say, right, we're going to do EVP. So they get the recorder out, they set it up, and they say, and it's like, it's recording.
Yeah.
And then they say, oh, if you can hear my voice, can you talk to the little box that's on the table and make a noise, and tell us your name and make the light flicker or whatever they want to do with it?
Yeah.
All right. And then they play back the recording, and you hear them saying, "Can you?" And you know, oh my God, it said its name. Now, how did the ghost hear them? But you see, the ghost can hear them, but they can't hear the ghost unless it's on a tape or a recorder.
Oh, yeah.
And why is it when they're calling out, you know, if you're in a room that's quite, you know, sort of an average room, and everybody can hear each other, why do they bellow at the top of the voice? A ghost's a bit hard of hearing.
I don't know. I've seen it. I've heard
these, all of these puzzling questions.
I am probably guilty of it myself at one point or a time, saying, you know, I probably have my voice a little louder, but then now I just whisper. No, I don't whisper, but I just talk in my normal tone. And if you can hear me, great. And if you can't, then you can't. You know,
another interesting one that I saw just a few years ago, just before lockdown, was the investigator was saying, right, we're all going to hold hands and in a circle, and we're going to try and get some answers.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody to speak.
Yeah.
So they all joined hands, and then they all stood in the dark for about a minute. And then the investigator said, okay, play the tape back. And they played the tape. And of course, there's always noise on a recording. Always, you know, people fidgeting, even noise by the recorder itself.
Yes.
And they had to listen to it, and they went, I can hear a woman. I can hear. Now, they couldn't decide whether it was a man or a woman or what the name was. But eventually, they discussed it for a couple of minutes and came to the thing. At which point, the investigator declared that was proof, because he had asked the ghost to say its name in his thought, and he had sort of sent out that. So it was like, well, it didn't matter what you say. You're just telling us the question afterwards. Kind of doesn't, you know. It's like with Richard and I were at Berkeley Castle once. Richard Felix and I at Berkeley Castle, and I got called out. You've got to see this really amazing experiment. I said, okay, what is ashtray divination? I'll let that sink in for a minute.
You don't want to get astral?
Ashtray.
Oh, Jesus, I think you said astral.
I thought you said astral as well.
Oh, ashtray divination. Now, we're all kind of au fait with the idea of tea leaves and, all that sort of stuff. So this group were reading the alignment of cigarette butts in an ashtray. They would shake them around and tip them out. And however the cigarette butts fell.
Oh, my God.
Mm.
Really? I mean,
I know, like I used to work in a healing centre in Dublin, and like that, I suppose when the locals like were kind of getting more to know you, coming and going and that type of thing, like we would on a Saturday night, like after work, we'd go into the local pub for a few drinks before we all headed off home. And with this one woman, she kept on coming over. Every time we were in there, she kept coming over, like, oh, do you see anything around me? You know.
Mm-hmm.
So we did actually tell her that we could read the bubbles in a pint. And we passed the pint around.
Did you?
And the crap we were coming out with, that makes sense to me. I know who that is.
Oh, good Jesus.
Mr. Smithers.
I couldn't.
The people can be very gullible,
Well, this makes me sound incredibly cynical and like not taking it seriously. But my approach is based, if it's a public thing, or if you're evidently not worth my, you're not doing it seriously. And I don't mean like, you've got the science kit, but if you yourselves are just drifting from, 1 minute they're doing table tipping, 2 minutes later they're over there doing spirit box. After 5 minutes they're bored of that, so they're off doing something else.
Yeah.
They're just sort of hopping around the building, and every squeak bump, nobody's looking to find a cause. If they hear a noise, it's paranormal. And, you quickly realize that they're not.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
But see, again, it depends on who you're with. Are you with mediums and spiritualists, or are you with investigators? Because my team aren't investigators. We're a team of mediums. So the way I look at it is, the difference between us and paranormal investigators is we look for communication. Investigators look for proof.
I mean, I completely respect that. I completely respect that. It's interesting that you raise that because.
But, sorry to interrupt you, but I will turn around to our guests when it happens and say, no, sorry, love, that's your imagination. Or no, I can explain that. Or,
the subject of actually medium sensitive psychics, because there is a bunch of labels.
That's all they are.
In haunted places is actually very, very new. If you look back through the literature of haunted houses, apart from, you can count literally on the fingers of one hand between 2000 and the mid 1850s, with the SPR and the Ghost Club being formed, how many times mediums, psychics, sensitive spiritualists went to haunted houses. They didn't, because they didn't need to. They were interested in spirit communication, which they could do in the spiritualist church, in home seance circles. But then with the advent of television ghost hunting in the form of Most Haunted, which is 2001, 2002, they realized that conventional ghost hunting, which is basically sitting there waiting for something to happen, perhaps measuring the occasional thing, it's like watching paint dry. Yeah. So they went to Derek Acora, who had a daytime show on Granada television called Granada Breeze, where he did a bit of a psychic sort of spot, and he was as you can imagine with Derek, incredibly popular. Well, that was the first time that you saw the use of a medium-led ghost investigation. And it was shown week after week after week, and it became, a big cult television show. Lo and behold, before the series had finished, you started to get paranormal groups who were medium-led, sensitive-led, or contained a significant number who were, and a whole new term, I'm a developing sensitive, because they were sort of feeding off one another. These people who had discovered that they could go out ghost hunting, because you just form a gang of people and you go somewhere, and then they start emulating and copying what they're seeing on television, and sort of they're not looking for the reasons why a light flickered, or they heard a noise, or smelt something. They don't want to look, because they don't need to look, because it's proof of the paranormal, like orbs were. Like, do you remember, even before orbs, there was
I have it written down here on my piece of paper in front of me, orbs, because I wanted to ask you a question about orbs.
Go on then.
How many do you have?
When did you become an orbologist?
What?
When did you become an orbologist?
I had to study. I studied at
about 2 weekends ago.
I studied at a remote Tibetan monastery.
Did you really?
for many years, under an very old monk, and he gave me this ancient knowledge of the orb.
Can you share it with us?
No, it's too ancient and too secret.
Oh, fuck. Okay, so we'll all still have to.
Well, I mean, you could just read Ghostology, of course, because it's the whole chapter in there on it.
It is here. It is here. We have them here. I am reading your books, and I do find, I was telling Jenny earlier, I do find them very fabulous. I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's really, it's written down what I think, and I'm not even halfway through it yet, but it's fantastic.
The best for me, the best one is the final chapter.
Really? Don't tell me, because I'm still going through it.
Well,
going through it. Oh, you can talk about it if you want.
It's surprising, actually, how few people have realised that there's a final chapter. It's only 1 page long.
I have.
The way we had it printed is it's not immediately obvious it's there, and then they suddenly realise, and it's like, this has been a serious book about the paranormal.
I did see the Paracoustis one. I did see in the Paracoustis one. There's a final chapter in it. I'm not finished it yet, but I was kind of going through it to kind of pinpoint a few things.
I think any book has to reflect the personality of the author. I mean, you can see that by the cover that those books are not your classic sort of ghost hunter, spooky cover. They're a little bit tongue in cheek. And Paracoustics was written for an academic university audience as well as the ordinary reader.
Yeah.
But when we were putting the book together, Cal and I wanted to include just a little bit of the fun element. And again, it's surprising how often people don't notice these little fun tricks, Easter eggs that have been snuck in.
Really? Well, I'm looking forward to going through it. I mean, I haven't read in a long time since I got bloody social media on my phone, and I fall asleep doing that. But now the reading is spot on.
But if you grab Paracoustics,
yes,
I'll give you one Easter egg. Turn to the back page, the back cover, I mean. Just the back cover. No, the back cover. Yeah.
Back cover. Am I right? Yeah, this one here or the last page?
Yeah. No, the back cover, the yellow cover.
Okay.
That's it. Read some of the testimonials.
Jane, why are you laughing? You're making me nervous now. I was much interested in your note of the 13th and the fancy that sounds with which you have to deal with of the seismic origin, if I'm saying that right. Such sounds I have often heard on the airwaves. If not, the earth waves can be mechanically recorded. Both non-acoustical electronic voice phenomena and the acoustical are described as seen as representing voices of the dead, as new electronic advances capable of communication in one form or another come into being paranormal phenomena and can be expected to accompany their usage. That's from Raymond Bayliss. And Mr. J. Byrne and Mr. T. Stainton, two undergraduates of Christchurch, Oxford, visit Borley and heard shuffling footsteps, swishing garments, faint whining or hooting, and a continuous wailing sound coming from the blue room. A sound so subtle and penetrating that it could be heard all over the house. That's from Harry Price in 1881 to 1948. The most haunted house in England, 1940.
Yep.
I
have the Easter egg yet?
He did Borley as well, didn't he?
Did we find the Easter egg?
Yeah, there's an Easter egg on the back cover.
Oh, geez, now at the top part,
does it say something like an uplifting read?
Let me just go to top it. Yes, an uplifting read. Daniel D. Home.
I'll let that one sing.
I'm going to have to Google that one now. Gillian, do you know, or am I the only one that doesn't know? An uplifting read. Now,
D.D. Hume was a very famous medium in the late part of the 19th century, who was most famous for his, there you go, D.D. Hume, famous for his levitations.
Oh, good God.
Because he, so, I mean, we just rolled that one in there, like an uplifting read by D.D. Hume.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, somebody said with ghostology, ghostology has got, it's not quite that subtle in ghostology, as you can imagine, because acoustics was an academic book. Ghostology is a little bit more of, just go to the back page. Go on, I'll show you the Easter egg.
This one here?
No, the back page.
Oh, the back page, the last one.
Page. Small cow, far away cow.
This is the back page suggested for the reading.
No, keep going.
Okay. And finally. Is that the one? Do you want me to read it out?
Have you ever seen anything like that in a academic book?
No, I haven't. And I liked it. I kind of liked it. I kind of want to read it now. I don't want to read it yet until I get to the end of the book.
Do you know you can't spoil it? Okay. And also because, as it says, well, you can read out that because only 2 lines, isn't it? 2-3 lines.
No. It has often been said that ghost investigation is boring. Let's face it. At 3 a.m., most people would prefer to be in bed than stalking ghosts in gloomy corridors or staring mindlessly at a monitor in the hope of seeing a headless orb float past. Well, if you have reached the end of ghostology, you still have several hours to wait until dawn's early light, and you can pack away the ghost gadgets. Here's a little word search to keep you occupied. Good luck, and thank you for reading Ghostology.
Yeah, and in the finest tradition of the subject, there are no clues.
No, there is no. And I'm going back up through the paragraph to see where the clue is, and there isn't.
No.
So you listen, Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon. Get it. If you haven't got it, get it. It is a fantastic read. I haven't read a book in years, but for anyone who's a ghost investigation enthusiast, or is it a ghost investigator or researcher, get these books. They are fantastic. They are brilliant. And I'm so intrigued, and I was going through them tonight because I have a few things down, and some of them is audio. I am an audio enthusiastic. I am all about the audio, and I'm going to say it. I am definitely one of them that is all about the audio. Say being in a room, and that's what I was talking to you today about, kind of playing a piece of audio that I'd like you to hear, that we weren't in the building at the time. But I'm going to put this up for a second. I think it's Anthony of Paracuse. It took him over a year to digest it in a good way. That's Anthony.
If you use, I always found it was much easier to digest if you used custard or gravy, or depending whether you wanted savoury or sweet.
There's a secret text in the convention logo. No one has cracked it yet. I'm going to. Sorry, Steve, go ahead. My glasses are not great enough. Go ahead. Say that again.
Hello. Say what again?
What did you say?
Nothing. That was an EVP.
Oh. Can you say that again? Can you just confirm what you said? Could you say it again, please?
That sounded like somebody's name.
I heard Jenny. Did anybody hear Jenny?
Come forward. We're all friends here.
Oh, look, we have a new friend.
Speaking about the Day of the Unexplained, though, how did you find the weekend at the Day of the Unexplained? Did you have a good time?
It was brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
Great weekend.
The work that Anthony and Mary and the whole team had put on to make that happen. It was fantastic. I mean, yeah, I get to go to a few Paracons, and the Irish ones, I used to go to the Dublin Paracon, and they were always good. Yeah. But this one, straight out the box, day one, for their very first event, I don't think they put a foot wrong.
Yeah, no, it was brilliant. Very well put together.
So well organised. It was, the participants, the audience, the speakers, but the whole thing just ran.
The entertainment.
Well, that was you. I thought you were brilliant. Although, maybe next time you're doing the feather and balloon dance.
Yeah, I was thinking on it. Maybe. Yeah, you see, I forgot my white stick.
Not where it's windy.
I couldn't use my psychic abilities without my white stick.
Not when it's windy.
I didn't know you were blind.
I didn't know because I was psychic, or was I psychic because I was blind?
Well, somebody said to me, "Have you met?" Because I went, when I went for a walk in the afternoon, and they said, "Oh, Gillian Murphy's over there." I said, "No, she's up at the centre." "Oh, you're going to go and see Gillian? I've been with her all bloody afternoon." "No, Gillian Murphy, I've been with her." And then I got into trouble from my wife, who's a big fan of Peaky Blinders, and.
Yeah, geez, I think if they found me now, it'd bring you mean into Peaky Blinders.
I'm not the only one who never watched the Peaky Blinders.
But let's go back to the Day of the Unexplained again, because it was, as I said afterwards, it was kin awesome, absolutely awesome. Anthony,
was a great weekend.
I mean, the next morning, the Sunday morning, the one thing I would do differently, Michael Benson was generous enough, as indeed Gillian was on standby. To get me back to the boat. But I don't think I slept a wink that Saturday night, because I thought the whole night it was like, what if he doesn't wake up? What if he oversleeps? What if I don't even know what room he's in? How do I, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning.
What room he was in either.
Yeah, at 4 o'clock in the morning, it was like, should I just get an Uber? Should I walk?
Well, Gillian, I was reading the comment there. Sorry, Steve, what did you say, Gillian?
I said, I don't think he knew what room he was in either.
Oh, I know.
I don't care to say it to his face.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for watching.
But going back to the Day of the Unexplained, do you think it's something that would run well on an annual basis?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I said to Anthony and Mary, the only change I would have made, just one tiny change, I would have started and finished an hour earlier.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Because there was quite a group of people who'd come down from the north or over from the west coast, and it was about 7 o'clock. They were having to leave, and like, oh, we're really, we'd love to stay and see the panel, but they couldn't. So if it started an hour, and there were so many people there at 10 o'clock that it actually probably could have started at 10.
That's
that
true,
is
actually, yeah.
That is the only change I would make.
Aye.
And that's for a first event. You know, normally there's a few problems and a few hiccups, and you sort of expect that, but they had covered every single base, and you could tell. I mean, throughout the day, they didn't relax at all. They were constantly, you know, making sure that the speakers were ready.
Oh, I knew he was going to jump off there for a tickety-boo.
Come forward, Steve. Come forward.
Steve, can you hear us? If you can you make a sound? Did you hear that? Did you freaking hear that? Steve, if you want us to stay, can you make a sound? Oh, God. Did you hear that? Oh, my God. So, folks, this is live. So this
He
is what
gives the
happens.
microphone, Steve.
I was going to do that, but I'm not going to push it too much. Mary said, "Here he is. He's back." I'm gonna. Steve, I can hear you. I think I see Steve. I think I see an apparition forming.
I'm picking up something.
Can you see it? Can you see him?
Oh my God!
Am I back? So yeah, I've just seen Mary there saying that they're planning already. Well, I hope that I really hope that I get invited back, because
I'll probably get killed for this. But do you think it'd be a good idea to make it a 2-day event?
Yes, you will get killed for it. No, actually, you wouldn't.
Yeah. On balance, I think that it would, but I would make the 2 days slightly different from each other.
Yeah,
totally.
You know, but you know,
I'm not
going to tell them what to do, because they did such a fantastic job.
No, nor would I suggest it. Just as a suggestion,
you know, I think that, you know, there is a cost of living price thing. There is. It does cost money to get people to these events, and people. I think that, you know, if it were me, I would do next year as a 2-day event, and then I would do a 2-day event every other year. So that people, because the danger is, if an event is every single year, it becomes a little bit stale after a while, because, you know, it's like, well, what are we going to do next year? What are we going to do next year?
Well, that's it. If it's an annual thing with the same speakers or the same demonstrations or whatever else, people will know what to expect.
Yeah. And whereas if it's every other year,
that's why I was suggesting a 2-day event where you could kind of bring in more, you know.
Yeah. And if it's every other year, it becomes something to look forward to.
Yes.
And you can put, you know, a longer period of planning in.
Yes.
So and I would definitely, you know, if it were me, I'd definitely be talking to some of the accommodation venues about sponsorship.
Absolutely. That's a bloody brilliant idea.
You are bringing a large number of people to their establishment. You know, so say, well, do you want to sponsor us? We'll put your, you know, we'll promote your hotel, restaurant, and it all helps to bring the cost down a little bit.
It does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I thought it was my first one that I ever went to, and it was just brilliant. Brilliant to meet teams that I've spoken to before, and to kind of meet up with them. I had so much fun. My team had so much fun. We had a great day. We had a great weekend.
That was nice. Yeah. I think that was one of the nice things, because you don't see it over here. You got all the teams were coming together, and they were sort of there was no tribalism. They were sort of, you know, networking with one another, talking to one another, sitting, you know, just being with one another. Whereas often you'll find that, you know, it can get a bit tribal sometimes. You know, don't sit with them. They're the team from. But there's none of that in Ireland. You know, you don't see this. You know, there is this cultural thing. They did a
But I think
fantastic.
that was evident as well from the reviews and the kind of notes and comments of thanks that went up on the Day of the Unexplained page as well. You know, I mean, everybody on there, we were friendly on the day, and then like that, friendly afterwards. You know, so it was great.
And meeting new
And
people.
of course, I mean, it was a huge, fantastic crack in the foyer, and in the chipper, because people were going en masse, and there was it was like almost like a second conference, because you would do your talk and you'd sit and listen to the speakers, but then you would come out and you would share stuff outside over a couple. I mean, it wasn't raining because the foyer is quite small
true,
there. But if they can bring the cost down by gaining sponsorship, and I think next time I'm definitely going to have the car, because I'll go to sleep then, because I've got it's a terrible because if I miss that boat in the morning, and I know everybody
I know,
everybody was being unbelievably helpful, but it got a bit sort of like, will I make the boat? Will I? Because if I didn't make the boat, 12 13 hours later.
Well, next time go on a later boat.
Yeah, not first in the morning.
Yeah, but you know what the problem then is? It gets into Pembrokeshire at
Pembroke,
3:45.
Yeah.
Good gosh.
Well, you're coming over to me in the summertime, and we're dragging Mr. O'Keefe as well. If he gets his act together.
I'm looking, because I've been to Charleville, and I've been to Kinnity, and I've been to Offaly. I've never been to Leap Castle, ever.
You haven't?
No, never been to Leap Castle.
Fabulous.
Yeah, no, I'll get you over there.
Back in April. We're back on the 29th of April.
I mean, I'm not, not expecting
there
to go
it
to
is.
Leap Castle. There you go. It just turned into a moon.
There it is.
But,
it's a beautiful place. It's amazing. You would like it.
For me, there is an element of kind of going home, because as my real surname, I have ancestry from Parsons Town.
You do? Yes, you do actually. Yeah.
So, and I have some bits and bobs relating to the Hellfire Club, which one of my ancestors was a founder of. In fact, they're not very far away. Where are they?
Have you got them there? Oh yeah, go get them. Are these the ones you were talking about when we were at the day?
Yeah, the little brass thing that's doing that. Yeah.
There he is. Where is he? Come here, you little brass thing. Oh, hang on, Tom. Oh, there you go.
Oh, bring it back a wee bit. Bring it towards your face. No, turn around.
Wait a second. Let me just fix this problem.
Okay. I can hear someone in my kitchen. What have you got? Oh, you've got Tilly with you. Who's in the kitchen?
Where's the they're there? 1 second. 1 second. How do you do this then? Oh, live stream. No, piss off. That's wrong.
Oh, he's gone again.
Oh, he's still there. Okay, Chica.
I'm just laughing. Mary has a comment up saying we needed this after COVID and all the lockdowns.
Where is this? Where is it? Oh, I did see
it. Lockdowns.
Oh, no, he's still here. Oh, Mary has to go. Gotta go, guys. My last night here. Oh, with my mom. Say happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Mary's mommy.
Before I head back to Ireland tomorrow. Thanks for the chats. Thanks for watching, Mary. Thank you so much. Safe travel home, and tell your mom happy birthday.
Right, so there's.
Oh gosh, is that the original from the Hellfire?
And you can see this one's a bit squashed.
That's the one that was buried, though, isn't it?
Oh gosh.
Correct. This was the smaller one, his little brother. This is the one that was given to the members of the Hellfire.
That's just. Are they originals?
Yeah.
Wow. And you have them.
Yeah, the brass one was found in a shallow grave up at the back of Killikee House, as far as I remember.
That's crazy.
And we have this nice little statue of one of my ancestors.
Oh, sugars. She's lovely. Lovely. Do you know what I want to do? Do you know what I want to do now, Steve? I want to play a bit of audio for you.
Okay.
If that's all right.
We're going to run out of time soon, aren't we, if I don't shut up?
Yeah, that's what I want to get. I want to play it now. I want you don't have to give your full opinion. I can send it to you privately as well, but I'd like to play it.
Let's go for it.
Okay. So this is from the Drogheda Museum Millmount. This is one of Emerald Isle Paranormal Researchers' locations, and only our team goes into it. So there's not an array of different teams going into it. We're doing it about 6 years, and it's where it was in British Army barracks at one stage. Oliver Cromwell had came and attacked Drogheda town, my town, and myself and Alan, he's the vice chairperson of the location. He comes to every investigation with us. So we were there one day. We had left a REM pod, a recorder in the third floor, and we left it. We locked up and we went home. So the next day, Alan went in to pick up the recorder and did a playback, and he sent me what he got. So I said, just let me get it. So it's probably I'm not going to tell you what's happening. It's just that it was attack against the Metallo Tower of the Drogheda Museum Millmount. So I'm going to play it here now for you. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you hear. So give me a second, because I'm kind of new to sharing this screen thing going on. Maybe turn your volume up a little bit. Nobody has been in the building. It has been kept in there overnight. Nobody has been in the building. Alan was the only one with the keys. He was a chairperson at the time. So I'm going to see if I can do this and do it properly. I have it here. I'm going to put my microphone on mute because it doesn't mute us, and I'm going to play it now. I'm going to get us back to the very beginning. Did you get anything from it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
I still have a plane
I would say my speakers or something just aren't good enough for it. I couldn't hear it the way you would. You'd have to send it some privately for headphones as well.
Was it? Well, I'm going to presume it wasn't Darth Vader. But what was about halfway through, because it does sound like somebody you could imagine someone speaking a bit like Darth Vader. You know this.
Yes, you do hear a voice. Yeah, you do hear a voice in it. A few voices. Yeah.
Well, so by the time it got to halfway through, I began to notice it was quite regular. That
repetitive.
It was, repetitive and quite regular.
Okay.
And in fact, I noticed, because I was, I don't know if anybody noticed, but I was sort of going 1, 2, 3, 4, and it was, I beyond that, it's like I've got software that could help analyze it.
That would be great. Yeah.
It is. So when you hear it, when you actually hear it on headphones, though, you would understand why there's repetition in it.
The best thing to do, I mean, I'm not in a position to give you an answer.
That's okay. No, that's okay.
I would be reluctant to just dismiss it and throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Absolutely, it's my baby.
On 1 or 2 occasions, we've also managed to obtain recordings that are baffling.
Yes.
So send me the recording, but there is a caveat. It will take quite a few weeks for me to.
There's no rush on it. There's no ruch. You can't rush something.
First of all, the analysis is quite a long process, and secondly, they've got me quite busy doing some stuff for getting the training ready for ASAP. So it's trying to fit it in when. So, but send me the file. Send me the recording.
I will send you the recording, and you can go through it when you want. When you can go through it, there's no rush.
And I would suggest, rather than play the second one.
I'm
aware of the time. If you send me them both, and then maybe I'll come on in 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and we'll see what we can. Even if it just pop up for half an hour on one of the shows and say, I've been able to do this. And
we're doing an EVP show on the 22nd. I'm probably busy on the 22nd of April, but I'd like to do it privately with you or on a different show with you. The second one would be ITC, from phone to phone. Okay. I understand what's being said, but I'd like your opinion on it too. But I will
send it over. I mean, I can't make any promises, but in terms of, I might not be able to do anything with it because it might just be, one that you can't explain. But I think it's intriguing enough to take it seriously and to give it some attention. But I'm very reluctant to say, oh yes, that's a class 2 EVP.
Yeah. Oh gosh, no, absolutely. Even I'm the same with it. I know the location, but I'm kind of like
as a result of my PhD work on paracoustics and sound. I had a software engineer designed for me a computer package that allows me. It won't tell me whether it's a voice, but it'll help me to remove the frequencies that aren't normal human voices and see what you're left with. And it allows me to do things with the sound file to try and get a better sort of ear for it.
I would even appreciate that you would even listen to it and go through it.
I think it's worth. I think I'm not just doing it because you asked me. I'm doing it because it genuinely sounded interesting enough to, and it might also be worth if it is does seem to be interesting. Is perhaps we'll get Dr. Anne Winsper, my colleague in Parascience, whose PhD is in EVP research, to come on and talk about it as well.
Listen, I would be bowing. Listen, what do you want? And I'll give it to you. You know, I would love that. Well, I'm just obsessed with EVP. I'm obsessed with EVP.
Yeah, I think that's one of the dangers with paranormal investigating, because if you set out to get EVPs, because of the technology that's being used, it's kind of inevitable that you will get sounds on your recorder when you play it back.
Yeah,
but then you listen to it back because you were there and you know and you are front loading the psychology of the listening. In paracoustics, there's actually a section on how to listen to EVP and how to deal with EVP.
That's and really good.
It's also it's covered in ghostology, because the best way to do it is to give it to people who aren't even interested in the subject, if I'm honest, and get them. It's called blind listening tests.
Gosh,
it sounds a bit of an oxymoron, but when people know or expect or have got an idea what they're listening to, it kind of changes the way that they are listening.
I totally understand.
I can give you an example that happened on Most Haunted during one of the Most Haunted lives, because EVP was quite fashionable, and they decided that at the start of the live 3-day marathon, they were going to play some EVPs on the first night, and then running along the bottom of the screen, the viewers at home could write in, text the program, and suggest what they thought it was. So there were 5 of them in all, and on the first time that they played them, and then people started texting in, and then during the show, during the live, they would periodically put what people were hearing. Mary in Birmingham said that she could hear a man saying, "I'm going to kill Yvette," whereas Fred in London was saying, it's a man's voice, and he's saying, take the dog for a walk. They were just completely random.
Yes.
But then people started to read what it said on the bottom of the screen.
Then by the end,
it's powerful.
And then by the end, on the third night, they were saying, this is astonishing. 80% of people are all hearing the same thing. Now, if you were at the day of the Unexplained, I gave a very short demonstration of how we're actually quite rubbish at hearing, and how we start thinking that we know what we're listening to, when in actual fact, we're listening to something entirely different.
Yeah.
And so EVP is, in fact, again, EVP is something that really is brand new in terms of, the long history of psychical research. Is brand new in the field, because EVP research goes back to, people always say, oh, it was Jurgensen and Raudiva and blah, blah, blah. Actually, it was being done in the Victorian era. People were using telephones or telephone communications with the dead a long time before people gave it the fashionable title of electronic voice phenomena. But it was always done, as with Raudiva, Jurgensen, and the other EVP researchers, like there's a German Institute for Metaphysics. They always do it in special EVP laboratories, and they set up these their equipment. But ghost hunters, with the advent of television ghost hunting, then take the recorders into haunted houses, which was almost never done. And given that they're actually using relatively inexpensive, not very, technical equipment, normally the cheapest thing that you can get off Amazon, the equipment itself is actually intrinsically noisy, and they're holding it, they're waving the recorder around, And the way their hand is rubbing on the case, it's making noise. They place it on a table and they walk around, or they change their weight from foot to foot, and it makes small noises that they're not actually hearing, but the recorder is more than capable of picking up.
Yeah.
And then when they play it back, there's all these weird noises that they didn't hear.
Yeah. Yeah. I
mean, one of the weirdest or the most bizarre encounters with supposed EVP that I've ever had was a group testing an EVP recorder, and they said, if there's anybody here, if you can hear my voice, tell me your name, or is there anybody here? And then they played the recording back, and you hear very clearly on the recording. So they go, is there anybody here? Can you hear my voice? You hear them say it, and then you hear yes. It's sort of really breathy and a very clear yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's none of us. None of us said anything. When we used the software and we took a recording of each of or sample of each of their voices, because everybody's got a slightly different voice. It was actually one of the investigators. They're not speaking aloud, as in deliberately, willfully, trying to trick the recording. But you know how sometimes it was just they wanted the thing so much. They were actually sort of thinking out loud and saying yes, without even realizing they were doing it.
I'd be so annoyed. I would be so annoyed.
This is unfortunately, as I said at the day of the Unexplained, our brain is, well, it's our greatest ally, but it's also our greatest asset, but it's also our greatest enemy, because it can play so many tricks on us. And we have to trust, I know what I saw, I know what I heard. Well, actually, to a psychologist, we don't, because we don't see or hear anything. The brain does, and it tries to make sense of what's hearing. So we have to trust it, because if we didn't trust our senses, we wouldn't be able to cross the road. We'd get hit by the first car that came around the corner, because we wouldn't trust that, I can hear a car coming, or I can see a car coming. We trust our senses because they are necessary for our survival, but our brain isn't listening in the sense that we think we listen. It's trying to, and that's why we see shapes in the fires and patterns, and because our brain is wired. Because our brain is wired to try and make sense of the world that's around us. And as I demonstrated in my talk, just little brief samples of how the brain can be fooled
easily.
And we forget that even the most scientific investigator is a human being and is completely fallible, completely foolable. I'm just as likely to fall for these brain traps as anybody else. It's just that I'm more aware that they happen and try to take some steps to mitigate them. But we're human beings, and it's we fall foul of these tricks that our brain can play.
I think when it comes to the audio, when I was saying I was obsessed with audio, not to the point that I would make myself hear something. I am that pain in the arse that I will debunk a lot of stuff before I can say.
Yeah, but your
point. Not that you would make yourself hear something. It's because you want so much to hear something, your brain kicks in by itself.
Well, not only that, Jill, but Jenny is a human being.
Yeah.
You are in a haunted building looking for some evidence of the paranormal.
Yes.
You have so front loaded the amount of expectation that it becomes kind of inevitable that these brain tricks can happen.
But there was one night. on Saturday night. Sorry.
One of the things that we worked very hard when we were looking at how is the best way to investigate a location is we worked incredibly hard for 20 years to try to stop our investigators investigating. Because when you take a group of people to a building and say, right, just be there, they still know that they're in a haunted building. And they still, there is still this tendency to attribute every sound, squeak, bump, noise, draft to the paranormal.
I have to go through over 900 EVPs now to think, Jennifer, did you hear it? Did you not? I was doing audio a few nights ago, and it like when I'm sitting here with the headphones and, listening and watching, and then something pops out of nowhere and I immediately make it out. Not that my brain is making it out. I immediately know what's being said. I have it filed away and so on. There was no questions being asked. The recorder was just sitting there, but something said something that I can make out what's being said. So should I take that as my brain telling me what was being said, or
we don't know? We don't know. What you can say for what as a researcher, as an investigator, what you can say for certain is if there is a sound that has been recorded, then the laws of physics mean that there was something making a sound.
Yes.
Right?
You can make out what's being said.
No. If your recorder has recorded a noise, a sound, then there is definitely, a sound that's happened. Yep. What you as an investigator have got to do is determine the cause of that sound.
Okay.
And that's where you have to look at all of the potential possible. We did one investigation many years ago, and it sounded like when the investigator played the recording back, it sounded like footsteps running down a flight of steps, and the recorder was at the bottom of the steps.
Yeah, okay.
And they said, "Oh, have a listen to this." And it did. It sounded just like somebody running down, small, perhaps a sort of young child, but not a tiny child running down the stairs. Now, we were lucky on that occasion, and we learned a very valuable lesson from it, that we had a camera. We had a video camera running at the same place.
Yeah.
So we looked at the video footage to see, was there anything that could have caused the sound.
Yeah.
As the sound event happened, an investigator at the top of the steps dropped a pencil. The pencil they were writing with. And it bounced down. It bounced down the steps, end over end down all the steps. Now, nobody really bothered. A couple of people like, oh, they've dropped the pen. Because it was quite a quiet sound. But the recorder at the bottom, which was sitting on a hard wooden step, didn't pick it up with the microphone, but the noise you get when you're touching stuff. And this thing was... So you ended up with this really quite loud set of that sounded like somebody. But in actual fact, it was a pencil bouncing down the steps.
That's brilliant.
So what we did, we took two steps to avoid that. One, we always cover an audio recorder with a video camera.
Yes.
And secondly, we went out and we went to the local pound shop, and we bought a load of cheap bath sponges. And now when we put an audio recorder down on a hard surface, we always put a bath sponge underneath it, because that takes out some of the reverberation. The case.
I'm writing this down.
It's in ghostology. Use a bath sponge.
That's brilliant. So you put that underneath. You put the recorder on top of it.
Yeah.
Take the sound away.
It acts like it takes the vibration away from the case.
That's really, folks.
There was another occasion. You don't have to have a lot of ghost tech. On one occasion, we were in North Wales on a case, and one of the things that was supposed to happen is a door was supposed to swing backwards and forwards
Aye.
So this door would move slowly over a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to say, well, can we find some proof that the door's moving? And there was different suggestions from different people. You know, we could set up a laser, so the laser will measure the distance of the door, and we could do all these sort of. What we actually ended up doing was we got a sheet of paper and taped it to the floor. We then got a pencil and taped it to the door, so that if the door moved, it drew a line on the piece of paper, and we could measure then the length of the line. It was that you don't need high tech.
Deadly. Listen, do you know what I bought myself? Now I'm gonna, like I said,
we're gonna have to, because I'm.
I'm watching as well. Yeah.
You know, the Jones. I bought this baby monitors.
Yeah.
€25. Like like the sponge, the door, and the pencil. It's brilliant. This, so we can have it on there in the kitchen area.
But that's because, like, I mean, what Steve is explaining and suggesting is kind of basic to him. But because teams over here are basing themselves on most homes, Ghost Hunters International and TAPS, they're copying them, so they don't realise what investigation actually is.
What you're there to do is to gain some proof that things are happening.
Absolutely.
You can set up, £1,000 worth of laser range finding high tech equipment, and you can just use a pencil and some masking tape and a piece of paper.
That's it.
You don't need all this high tech. I'll give you one. I'm because I'm going to have to go. But I'll end it with one unfortunate lesson that we learned, because we were faced with a situation that many investigators are faced with, which is stuff happens when you're least expecting it. You're going off for a break, and then as people are walking around for the break, they suddenly see something at the corner of the eye, or see something at the end of the corridor, and they go, "Oh my God!" Well, did you? No, we turned the cameras off because we were going for a break. So we got everybody equipped with body cams.
Yes,
these were shoulder mounted, like the police have. These were shoulder mounted.
I have one. Yeah.
Yep. And so we had all the investigators wear one of these and switch it on whenever they weren't investigating.
Yeah.
So they would turn it on. And we stopped doing it after the first investigation.
Why?
Because one of our investigators decided he was going for a bathroom break.
Oh, okay.
And dutifully had his camera on, went off to the bathroom, and the cameras are slightly angled down, and we stopped doing it after that. We only did it the once.
Well, I do. I kind of like leave it on. Sometimes I don't wear it. Sometimes I leave it in the best places. Like
I remember that, what we learned was people forget that there are cameras there sometimes. We were. I'll give you one last story, then I'm definitely going. We were asked there was a family, and they had it was mom, dad, a couple of teenage kids, and they was having some weird stuff taking place on the landing outside of the bedrooms.
Aye.
And things moving about and falling over, and a cupboard door was opening and closing. So we gave them a CCTV camera. We plumbed it into their home VCR. This was in the days when everybody had a VCR under the television. And we plugged it into their VCR and gave them a big stack of VHS cassette tapes. So you can tell you how long ago this was.
Yeah, Jesus.
Every week we would go along, pick up the recording tapes and drop off a fresh supply of new tapes, and then we would watch them. After we made 2 or 3 visits, so like 2 or 3 weeks of these recordings. So every night as they went to bed, they'd switch the VCR on downstairs and it would record. Okay. After 2 or 3 weeks, we stopped and we said to the family, no, what we want you to do is we want you to watch the recordings before you give them to us. because what had happened is the camera had been there for that long, standing in the middle of the landing, at the end of the banister rail, that the family completely started to forget about it. They were like, it was just there. It was just always there.
Okay.
And there were two events where a member of the family got up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, and didn't even register that the cameras were running. This night vision camera was running.
Okay.
And then we realized that, ethically, they should see the footage, and then they could realize that they were perhaps showing too much. So, you've got to,
too much.
Well, the camera was pointing towards the bathroom door, and the bathroom door was open.
We don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that.
Exactly. But you've got to sort of be mindful that once you set up a piece of equipment for a long period of time, and people just forget it's there.
Well, let me tell you, the audio, the recorder is good, because I used to. I don't do it now. I used to have about 6 recorders going at the same time. Let me tell you, I've learned you don't have 6 recorders going at the same time, because you've got extra work and you've got contamination, a lot of it. So
for every, people go, they take every piece of item in the equipment box and say, look, I mean, there was a group, bless them, at the Day of the Unexplained, and they had a huge table full of equipment.
Yeah.
Now, if you take six audio recorders and run them for 10 hours, that's 60 hours of sound that you've got to listen to. Now, almost no human being can focus their attention for 60 hours.
I've done it.
Basically drown yourself under the amount of data that you're generating. So if you're going to use equipment, then target the equipment on the phenomena that's reported. Years ago, and I've told this story 1,000 times. I was sent a CD-ROM. Again, shows you how long ago it was. And on the CD-ROM, a group said, "Can you have a look at these pictures for me? Because some weird stuff. We'd like your opinion." No. So they put all the pictures, 300 and something pictures, onto a CD-ROM and sent them to me. And I said, "Yep, brilliant. Just received it in the post. By the way, what's the phenomena that's reported?" "Oh, loads of footsteps running up and down the corridor."
What? What's the footsteps in the corridor? Chica, mama, see.
Loads of footsteps running up and down the corridor. And they sent me a CD-ROM with 300 and whatever it was still photographs.
No.
So it's like, wouldn't you have been better to an audio recorder and a camcorder there? But we never thought of that.
That's it. But you see, I've learned now. Like I'm in the field many years, but you gotta learn. I have learned. And I've got a few recorders because I do love the EVPs. But let me tell you, I will take 2 recorders with me. One, if in the coffee room when we have left it, one always in my hand that everything I'm doing that night is on that recorder that I can download, and one in the hotspot area. That is it.
Do you know what? We each of our investigators has a Zoom H1 sound recorder with them all the time. And do you know what we use them for?
Your best.
You know what they're for?
What?
Witness interviewing witnesses. We don't do EVPs because, well, anyway, that's another day because I'm going. It's 11 o'clock.
Yeah, me too. Listen, brilliant chatting to you.
I'm going to show you.
Right, we'll talk to you soon.
Gillian's nodding off there.
Paracoustis, if you want
My dog is way over her bedtime. She's been doing river dance here in the background for the last hour.
Water. Listen, guys, Amazon. What was the other place that you said, Gillian, earlier?
The other one. The other ones. Now, let me just clarify. That's the more useful if you're an investigator.
Amazon.
If you're going to buy one, buy the blue one.
Okay, buy the blue one.
Because sound is covered in it.
Yes.
But the yellow one is very specific.
Yeah, I've seen that. So, Ghostology, I will put the link up on my page after this show. I will put it up on Emerald Isle. I will put it up on Amazon Paranormal Researchers. I'll put it up on Shadow Whispers in the Night. I'll put the links up from Amazon where you can get it. So many questions. We've got to do another show, Steve.
We'll do another show, but Jill's dog needs to go to the bathroom.
I know. And he has to go. And me too. Me too. Oh my dog. But Steve,
all right, just talking to you. Talk to you soon. I'll talk to you during the week, Steve.
A million thanks for coming on tonight, Steve. I loved meeting you. I love meeting you in person as well. It was an honor. It was brilliant. Gillian, thank you so much for jumping in with us tonight. I know you and Steve know each other a long time, so it was great having you on with me as well. So I'm going to bring in the background for Tickety-Boo, and I'm going to play the outro, and then we will catch up later.
I'm going to jump off. I've got an early start in the morning.
No worries.
I'll catch you soon. Bye-bye, everybody. Good night.
Good night.